Nick woke with a jolt. 3:33 a.m. The red numbers on his alarm clock glowed ominously in the darkness. A knock echoed from downstairs. He was instantly awake, heart pounding. It was his birthday, but who would be at his door at this hour? He climbed out of bed, the floorboards cold under his feet. A shiver ran down his spine. He peeked through the blinds. No car in the driveway. He crept down the stairs, each step creaking a warning into the silent house. As he neared the living room, he saw it, a figure in the reflection of the large, ornate mirror that hung above the fireplace. It was tall and slender, but something felt off. He froze, fear gripping him like a vice. Taking a deep breath, he quickly spun around. The living room was empty. He was alone. He shook his head, trying to dismiss the unsettling feeling. He must have imagined it. It was just the moonlight playing tricks. He cautiously approached the front door, his hand hovering over the knob. His heart pounded in his chest. He took a deep breath and flung the door open. There was no one there. The porch was empty, illuminated by the dim glow of the streetlight. Confused and uneasy, he closed the door and turned back to the mirror. He needed to calm down. He stared at his reflection, his tired eyes staring back at him. But something was still wrong. The reflection wasn't mimicking him. He raised his right hand, but the figure in the mirror kept both hands at its side. He froze, his breath catching in his throat. A cold dread washed over him. He took a step back, his eyes glued to the mirror. The reflection smiled, a slow, sinister grin spreading across its face. It wasn't his smile. "Happy birthday, Nick," the reflection spoke, its voice a low, raspy whisper that seemed to slither from the mirror's depths. Nick stumbled back, fear gripping him. The voice, it wasn't his own, it was deeper, more menacing. He watched in horror as the reflection took a step closer to the mirror's surface. "Who are you?" Nick stammered, his voice barely a whisper. The reflection only smiled wider, its eyes two black pits boring into him. "Don't you recognize yourself, Nick?" it hissed. Nick shook his head, backing away from the mirror. He bumped into the coffee table, the sound seeming to echo in the stillness. He wanted to scream, to run, but his feet felt rooted to the spot. He was trapped. The reflection stretched out its hand, its fingers long and slender, the nails sharp and black. Nick watched in terror as cracks began to spiderweb across the mirror's surface, spreading out from the reflection's touch. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing himself. A deafening crack like a gunshot split the night. He opened his eyes to see the mirror, now a shattered ruin, shards of glass littering the floor. The reflection was gone. He stood there for a moment, heart pounding, trying to catch his breath. Then he heard the sound of car doors slamming shut. His friends, they were here. Relief washed over him. He wasn't alone. He ran to the door and flung it open, but the sight that greeted him made his blood run cold. His friends stood there on the lawn, their faces a mixture of confusion and fear. "Nick, what's going on? Why didn't you answer your phone?" Nick stared at them, his voice caught in his throat. They were looking past him into the house. He slowly turned back to follow their gaze and saw it, the shattered mirror reflecting nothing but an empty room, and a man trapped inside, his mouth open in a silent scream.